Drama looms large at NASCAR's smallest track, and rub and paint makes for some dangerous racing. The Subway 500 from Martinsville, Sunday, 12:30 Eastern, NBC.
You're watching WDSU, New Orleans News Channel 6.
Good evening, I'm Kriss Fairbairn.
And I'm Norman Robinson. Almost 2 months after Hurricane Katrina and under the shadow of a wave of negative national publicity, the New Orleans Police Department tonight appears to be back on track and virtually back to full strength.
Even some of the department's longtime critics say they see progress. It's the big story tonight, and you'll only see it here on WDSU News Channel 6. Reporter Heath Allen is live in the CBD.
Well, good morning to both of you this evening. You know, for the last few weeks, we've heard an awful lot about the New Orleans Police Department, mostly bad. You know, we've heard of, the situation in the French Quarter. We've heard about, the people leaving their post during Hurricane Katrina. It's like I say, y'all been pretty bad. And you got the idea that perhaps, the police department was down number-wise. Well, apparently that's not the case, and that really comes from some of the police department's harshest critics.
From a manpower basis, it's not what it was prior to Katrina, but I think that it's more than adequate to be able to police the city in the foreseeable future.
For years, one of the NOPD's toughest critics, Raphael Goyeneche of the Metropolitan Crime Commission, says the NOPD is now up to the task.
They've been working nonstop for 8 weeks now. So yes, they are physically and emotionally drained as an organization, but I think that they're hanging together and they have a basis to build forward. And I think that the future looks good for this city and for this police department.
We have over 1,400 officers that are actually here in the city working on the street right now.
That number sounds surprising after all of the talk of officers leaving their posts during Katrina. But Chief Riley says now there is order where there was once chaos.
Obviously, at that time, it was chaotic. Our communications was down. We were unable to really ascertain where all our officers were. We have 249 officers on the list that are considered AWOL or at some point left their assignment for various reasons. That's still under investigation. But right now, we have over 1,400 officers protecting the city of New Orleans.
And certainly now, it is a much smaller city to protect. Only about 20% of the population has returned, and the department says the chief is feeling pretty good about now.
When we look back to where we were the first 4 or 5 days, we have come a tremendous way. We feel very good about where we're headed, and we think the city's making progress, slowly but surely.
I do believe that from a security standpoint, from a public safety standpoint, the city is ready for business.
Now, Norman, Kriss, I'll tell you this. The news department here has gotten a number of phone calls from people who say they're New Orleans police officers or close to New Orleans police officers and say there's not nearly that many police officers on the street. Some try to put that number right around 1,000 at this point. But you heard the chief say it more than once tonight. 1,400 police officers carrying the badge, carrying the gun, patrolling the street. And actually, he says the number is actually higher than that when you add up, some of the ones that are on sick leave or some of the ones that are working in offices and not necessarily on the street. He put that up around 1,500 or maybe a little better. And as we were saying before, city's much smaller now population-wise, so it's probably a lot easier, to kind of get your arms around as a police department, much easier to patrol. Norman, Kriss, back to you.
Heath, they talk about manpower, but I was wondering if they have their communication system back online, when and if they're moving back into their districts, and when, for God's sake, are they moving back into their police headquarters?
All of that's going to be slowly but surely. All that's one step at a time. The 911 system, the emergency, that's up and running. From outside the area or its cell phone, they have some problems when you try to call 911 from a cell phone. But if you're dialing 911, just as a regular number, that system is up and running. And you know that a number of the police department substations around the city were really badly affected. And you also know the city of New Orleans is basically broke. So it may be a while before the police department gets back into its districts. It may be a while before all those communication systems are back up. For the foreseeable future, the men and women in the New Orleans Police Department are going to be basically working out of their cars, not working out of substations or offices. They're going to be actually on the street, and the communication they're going to have is being car to car and on the streets of the city of New Orleans.
All right. Real hardship. Thank you.
Thank you, Heath. And while the recovery continues in the wake of Katrina and Rita, tonight we are watching yet another tropical storm, this time Wilma.
Weather Plus Chief Meteorologist Dan Milham is in the Weather Center. Dan?
It's not the biggest, it's not the longest list of hurricanes, but it ties the longest list, which was back in 1933 when they didn't have names for them yet. That didn't happen until 53. The big picture shows you how the Gulf is looking great right now. But there you can see the clouds around Wilma, the deep orange and red colors showing you where the thunderstorms and the stormy weather is the worst. There's the latest location down there in the Caribbean. It's sort of southwest of Jamaica, between Nicaragua and Honduras and Jamaica, and kind of drifting around toward the south today. It really isn't moving in any given direction with a lot of speed, but it is expected, based on our forecast of the upper air winds and steering currents and all that, to start moving. Today, south at 2 miles an hour. In other words, it's just wandering around out there. It's at 15.8, 79.9, and the maximum sustained winds at 50 miles an hour, although I think it may be a little higher than that by now. It looks like it will have a chance to become a hurricane. That water in the Caribbean is plenty warm, providing a lot of energy. Looks like it'll head toward the Yucatan Peninsula and then turn toward the north into the Gulf of Mexico, and that last little position is the one in which we're most interested, because it really does look like it's going to take a turn back toward the east as it gets into the Gulf over the weekend. Another Saturday while we have to watch a named storm and hope that it makes its turn. But I'll be back a little later on to show you why I'm feeling rather confident, relatively confident, that it'll make that turn, and what all the other circumstances are in the way that all have to come together for that turn to take place. Kriss and Norman?
All right, Dan, we'll see you then. It's the last thing we need. The governor says her blue ribbon panel is going to lead the way to rebuild Louisiana.
She calls it the Louisiana Recovery Authority, and it's in business tonight, 7 weeks since Hurricane Katrina and almost a month after Hurricane Rita. Political correspondent Alec Gifford is here now to tell us who's making sure the long road ahead is a smooth one.
We'll see about that, Kriss. The group selected by the governor will work hand in hand, she says, with Mayor Ray Nagin's Bring Back New Orleans Commission. And tonight, both groups are saying there will be no conflict.
I want to welcome all of you here today.
Governor Blanco introduced a 24-person team headed by two well-known figures, Dr. Norman Francis of Xavier University, chairman of the team, and former Time magazine managing editor Walter Isaacson, a native Orleanian and graduate of Newman High. And right off the top, all three talked about cooperation between New Orleans and Baton Rouge.
We are going to partner with the local folks. We're going to bring talent to them that they might not necessarily be able to get on their own.
We're going to surprise you by how well we're going to get along with the New Orleans Commission.
This cloud that's been hanging over whether New Orleans and the state can work together, this board will work together and make it a myth.
To recover from the trauma of this devastation, we cannot simply recreate what those storms destroyed. We must make the new Louisiana smarter, safer, and stronger.
With that, Governor Blanco swore in all 24 members of the Louisiana Recovery Authority.
And if you'll raise your right hand, I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States. So help me God. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Of course, time is going to tell the degree of cooperation, the degree which may or may not occur.
Well, we've seen enough confusion thus far, so hopefully we won't see any more.
Hopefully.
But we will see another commission. And I'll tell you why. The governor had her say, and Mayor Ray Nagin is certainly having his. NewsChannel 6 anchor Rich Lenz has the mayor's comments on the spirit of the cooperation between the two groups.
Yeah, the governor and I have been talking on a fairly regular basis, and we talked about her commission and what their objective is, that it is statewide in focus. There are some New Orleans people on it, and they want to look at the southern part of Louisiana and how they guided through its recovery. We also talked about how do we work better together. And that's when we came up with this kind of reciprocal commission structure that we have in force.
The governor has tabbed Rod West to join the mayor's commission, and Boise Bollinger will join the governor's commission from the mayor's commission. The mayor also had some interesting things to say about the possibility of trailer parks springing up in the city of New Orleans.
We have identified various spaces from City Park to Winn-Dixie parking lots to Turo's parking lot to community areas that have lots of green space where we've identified enough space for 3,500 travel trailers. We're in the process of identifying another 5,000 space for another 5,000.
Rich Lenz with that report. The Orleans Parish Prison is back in business tonight, but as Helena Moreno tells us, only one building is holding inmates.
Orleans Parish Sheriff's deputies are certainly very busy right now. They're no longer operating out of Union Station because Orleans Parish Prison has now reopened. To talk a little bit more about that, we're joined by Sheriff Marlon Guzman. So, Sheriff, tell me a little bit about what you're doing now. You shut down Union Station as a makeshift jail earlier today. So what are you doing now?
Well, now we reopened the House of Detention, has our central booking and lockup facility. We're already receiving arrested persons. I think we have about 5 already and expect to have more coming in.
Now, you evacuated your prisoners for Katrina. Would you be getting any of them back?
Well, what we're going to do is first receive all of the prisoners that were arrested post-Katrina, and then we're going to start repopulating the jail with people that have to be released. So we have a phased-in process that we're going to employ.
And what about your big main building over here that we see to our left? Is that going to be reopened anytime soon?
Well, we have 10 different facilities, and some of them really suffered a lot of damage to the electrical parts, and we're really looking carefully at what's the best way to rehab them. We were able to open this building because it really doesn't have a whole lot of technology with it, and we're able to get it up pretty quickly.
Okay, so you feel pretty ready to go? How does it feel to finally be back in business, I guess I could say?
Well, I think everybody's glad to be out of the Union Passenger Terminal. It was great to have that facility there and available, but now we have to get working down here and do the job for the people.
Okay. Sheriff Marlon Guzman, thank you. You have enough deputies to be here as well?
Oh, we're fine. Well-staffed, and we're ready to go.
All right, Sheriff Marlon Guzman, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Orleans Parish Prison now reopened. And now, back to you.
Well, Crime Stoppers is alive and well, offering rewards to people who turn in looters in the wake of Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. Law enforcement from the metro area gathered to support the effort this morning. Under this new initiative, Crime Stoppers is offering $500 cash for tips that lead to an arrest for looting or the possession of stolen goods.
If they know of somebody who's responsible for looting and may be in possession of the stolen property, we want to know about it, and we want to be able to trace that person back to that property, and particularly firearms. We're just trying to make our community safer, and this is one way everybody can get involved and help.
As always, the Crime Stoppers phone number, 822-1111 or 1-877-903-STOP. You can remain anonymous, and you don't have to testify.
He's been the Saints Executive Vice President for 6 years, but tonight he's looking for a job.
WDSU Sports Director Rich Lenz is out in the CBD right now, live to tell us what happened.
Thank you very much, Chris. Well, today what happened, Arnold Filko walked in to Tom Benson's office, was given the option of either resigning or being terminated without pay. He chose to be fired. Now, his firing is reminiscent of the firing of General Manager Randy Mueller back in 2001 by Tom Benson, only this time you'd say the stakes are much higher because it speaks directly to the future of the Saints and their possible return to the city of New Orleans. Now, we spoke with Arnie in San Antonio via the telephone just a short time ago. He's actually at his son's football game right now, and he did give us a brief statement, and let me read that to you right now. Filko says, "I am very hurt and upset. I think this is a terrible move by Mr. Benson. On advice of counsel, I cannot say more at this time, but we'll have much more to say in the near future." Bottom line, it all comes down to this. We spoke with Filko last week in Baton Rouge. He was trying very hard to sell tickets to the Saints' 4 football games that will be played in Tiger Stadium beginning October 30th against Miami Dolphins. He was a big proponent of the Saints returning to Louisiana as soon as possible. Just as clearly, it appears Mr. Benson is getting more and more comfortable with the idea of San Antonio as a possible home permanently for his football team. Arnold Filko out after 6 years with the Saints.
Rich, what is this likely to do to ticket sales?
Well, that's a good question, Norman. You know, when we spoke with Arnold last week, actually, there were about almost 50,000 seats left for the first game in Tiger Stadium. I believe that ticket sales were going to pick up. But once again, it seems that Mr. Benson is moving in a direction where he's not really telling us what the future of his team is going to be, but everything that he does, including the firing of Philco, who, for example, would have been possibly, or I will say probably, a voice of dissent against any talk of staying in San Antonio permanently, well, he eliminates that voice of dissent. He takes away any sort of a yes man, or keeps the yes men around him, I guess. And so as far as ticket sales, to be honest with you tonight, Norman, I wish I could tell you if Mr. Benson really cared how many tickets he's going to sell for these 4 games in Tiger Stadium, because he clearly seems as if he is leaning towards a home in San Antonio, and we await word, strong word from either Mr. Benson or NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue for them to come out and say, look it, we're behind the city of New Orleans, we're coming back, et cetera, et cetera. We're not hearing any of that. That's very disturbing, and so is today's sudden firing of Arnold Philco as the team's executive vice president. Back to you.
All right, he's been a good ambassador for the team and for this city.
Your class act. Thank you, Rich. If you commute to or from the North Shore, then today's a big day. What you need to know to arrive on time.
Plus, New Orleans loves to eat. See what it takes to reopen a restaurant, and we'll show you 2 dining establishments that are cooking like crazy.
You're in for another very comfortable evening out there, thanks to the low humidity. When I come back in a few minutes, we'll talk about what's steering Wilma, how warm we're going to get this week, and when the next front arrives.